So Yolan was still upset with me, but the trip was salvaged for the most part. She slept next to me as I doom scrolled through Facebook watching clips of the anti-ICE riots back in Los Angeles. Protesters standing on burning cars, waving the Mexican flag, Americans burning their own flag. And I watched Americans burn the flag while standing on cars, and in China, well, that's a prison sentence. Here, I was corrected for just holding my chopsticks the wrong way. And watching people back home destroying property and face, well, no consequences, part of me thought, that's freedom? The freedom to be wrong, destructive, even stupid. China would never allow it. China, it demands respect. And after rebuilding from near total annihilation through sheer industrialization and will, maybe they've kind of earned it. That will, it's visible everywhere. Towering skylines rise daily. Half a dozen construction projects at once, entire cities of empty buildings waiting for the next flood of migrant workers. And our condo complex was the perfect example of this. On a whim, I said, hey, let's build a big old community out in the middle of nowhere. And this is country. Behind me, behind the direction we're walking, that you can't see yet, just these buildings that have been here for, like I said, maybe 10 years or longer, Yolan? 10. 7 years ago, it was in the middle of nowhere. Today, well, it's still in the middle of nowhere, but a brand new modern subway station sits only 100 yards away, the seed for future community. These places are pre-planned, lined with trees, wide sidewalks, and bike lanes. The quiet tranquility is just the calm before the storm of 25-story condos and commercial districts. But this rampant growth, it comes with a cost. And my earlier suspicions that they build so fast that nothing gets finished, it wasn't wrong. It's actually by design. At its heart, it's a philosophy of good enough. Most of these apartments are empty, like I mentioned. However, and I believe that's probably why the people who live here use the stairway as storage. Been 7 years and the plastic protector is still on. Yolan doesn't find that at all interesting. All right, we're at my sister-in-law's apartment. These are very high-end, towering apartments. Weird question.
为什么？因为我放学了，对不对？就很开心了。
A bunch of watermelon for the hot day.
我怎么感觉周四的放学时间比较快呢？哦，真的也有。你看门呢？过来。
But even in luxury, we have a lot of unfinished, good enough stuff. And despite the reputation of the neighborhood, it's very modest. Built to meet immediate needs and regulations, not for centuries. The drivers are speed and cost efficiency. It's intentional, not an oversight. So even the most luxurious high-rises like my sister-in-law's 19th floor condo show signs of disintegration. Chipped ceilings, unfinished paint, water stains, windows so dirty you can barely see out of them. The glamorous exterior of China is often dimmed by the interior reality. And it's a strange contradiction. A culture that would scoff at a microwave burrito for being inauthentic seems completely comfortable living in an unfinished construction project. And these issues run deeper than aesthetics. Aging rooftop water reservoirs corrode, delivering tap water that may be unsafe to drink, and despite advanced treatment plants, the miles of old pipe and good enough infrastructure means no one drinks from the tap. I stood on my sister-in-law's patio overlooking Wuhan, the view obscured by dirty exterior windows. It was a really pretty view. And every afternoon, though, about 3 p.m., we had walked down to pick my nephew up from elementary school. The scene was universal. A crowd of parents waiting for the final bell. The school itself was beautiful, a big soccer field, a nice building. It wouldn't look out of place in the U.S.
Yeah.
This net seems like
Yeah. Chinese elementary school, can't see much through there. But nice big green field. The kids are out playing tennis courts, track, plus soccer field.
His older sister would come home much later, though, around 6 p.m., and she's only 14 in middle school, and she always arrived looking completely exhausted. I'd ask her why she was so late, and she explained that it was for mandatory tutoring and study sessions to keep her grades competitive. We'd eat dinner. She made small talk, but you could feel the weight on her. Her grandpa sipped white wine, baijiu, and the world would feel normal for a moment. I even met one of her best friends, the class nerd with glasses who was brave enough to practice her English with me. And I told them about American school life, how the kids come home by 3 p.m. and the rest of the day on their phones. Her friend's eyes totally went wide as she translated for my niece. Shenma? That means what? My niece looked incensed, her eyes wide, mouth open, her braces shine silver. She explained it simply that in China, the path is narrow and steep. To get into a good college, you must get into a good high school. And that battle is either won or lost in middle school. And the difference is this. In China, college isn't a right. It's a competition. Every kid starts with a clean slate, but only the top scores advance. Your middle school performance determines your high school. Your high school Gaokao score determines your college, or whether you go at all. Strict anti-corruption laws promise that money can't buy shortcuts. And the results? Fierce competition among students, hypersensitive parents, long days of brutal work hours. The pressure to succeed is fierce. All for the final test, the infamous Gaokao, the one test that rules them all. Succeed and you start your college journey towards a prosperous future. Fail and that path pretty much ends here. And at 8 p.m., as the dinner table was being cleared, she went back to her room. She studied until her bedtime at 10 o'clock in the evening. And one more day down, and the year was just starting. The race for her continues to this day. Jiao! Keep fighting. Jiao, jiao. For my niece, the weekends, they meant freedom. And like any 14-year-old, she loved shopping, especially for cosplay outfits at the mall. Shopping in China ranges from street vendors to massive futuristic malls. One thing's clear, retail here is not dead. In my neighborhood, though, in Colorado, we have this beautiful outdoor mall with this big fountain and flower gardens designed to be a community hub, but the stores are all dying. Macy's, Sears, Best Buy, my favorite restaurants, all closed. Every week, one less reason to go there. In China, well, the opposite. The malls are packed. Energy. It feels like American malls in the 80s. When the mall was the place to be, most subway stations would drop you directly inside the mall. Food courts buzz with dozens of cuisines, KFC next to duck tongue barbecue. The community grocery stores are modern and well stocked, and if it wasn't for the Chinese characters on all the packaging, I could have been shopping back at home. It felt really comfortable. But the heart of the commerce is at the street level. Every condo complex houses thousands of people, and the entire ground floor is business. Restaurants, grocery stores, pharmacies, salons. Take the elevator down and everything you need is right there. In the evenings, these streets come alive with dancing, tai chi, and outdoor karaoke. And then the street vendors, live chickens, fresh crawfish, lotus root, barbecue carts, homemade noodles, jianbings, small businesses everywhere. Entrepreneurial energy is palpable. Everyone pays with WeChat here, and you scan a QR code, transaction done in seconds. And cash is literally obsolete. And 7 years ago, I handed a store clerk my credit card. He stared at it like it was a fossil, called his manager, pulled out this dusty manual imprint wiper and blew the dust off. Or they weren't used to getting payment by credit card. They were waiting for my phone. And you don't see any closed stores. You see successful capitalist economy, relentlessly open for business everywhere. Now, getting to these malls is a story in itself. China's transportation system is probably its most shocking aspect, because despite the clean, modern subways, the roads are worlds of their own. And it's not just the traffic, it's the seemingly complete absence of rules. Imagine the road like a jar packed full of large rocks. And those are the cars. Now, pour a bag of pebbles into that jar. Those are the scooters. And they're weaving through every conceivable gap. Finally, pour a bag of sand into the jar. That's the pedestrians, flowing around and in between everything else. And this is pretty much Wuhan Road. It's constant. It's an inhospitable fight for space. No one smiles. No one waves you forward. Pedestrians don't have the right of way there. So don't expect a door to be held open for you or a car to stop for you at a crosswalk, because it's pure unadulterated pandemonium. But here's the twist that kind of flipped my entire perspective. I'd asked who in their right mind would insure drivers here, but then I realized everyone expects the chaos. They drive slower. They're constantly aware. A scooter cutting you off isn't an offense, it's a Tuesday. There's less rage here because there's no broken expectations. And this kind of made me look at American driving culture a little bit differently. Here, we get incensed by the smallest infraction. Driving too slow in the fast lane, zipper merging or not zipper merging. We see anyone breaking the rules as profoundly insulting, and we respond with anger, impatience, and aggression, and we're driving at high speeds, and that's what kills people. In China, the chaos is the rule. A bike in the fast lane? Well, just go around. An old woman crossing a highway with a shopping cart? That's a normal Thursday. You're not fighting the system, you're just navigating it. And somehow, in all that collective slow-motion dance of chaos, they manage to keep each other alive. In the middle of all those cars and crowds, I was constantly surrounded. And my brown hair, my features, they made me stick out like a sore thumb in a sea of black hair. And at restaurants, waitresses would kind of avoid my eyes and only talk to Yolan. People would sneak glances, but if I waved or tried to make eye contact, they'd look away. And I felt kind of invisible sometimes. I was alone in my own bubble, even when pressed by all sides in the crowd. But one day, I sat on the park bench, isolated with my phone, playing a game to de-stress. A student sits next to me and just to watch, then another. I was so focused on my game, but when I finally won and looked up, I was surrounded by an entire class. And they were laughing, smiling, and applauded my win. And I felt like a celebrity now. The cognitive dissonance was blinding. I was the center of attention and completely alone at the same time. And there was this one moment that really crystallized it all. I was at the community post office and I saw another foreigner, an Indian guy. Here in the United States, I wouldn't think anything about it. But in China, seeing him was as rare as seeing me. And our eyes met in passing. It was very romantic. We both offered small, timid smiles and a little wave, and that was it. No words, but in that 1 second, well, we were connected. We both knew exactly how the other felt. And I thought about how my wife might have felt when she first moved to the United States. But her experience here was way different. She found Chinese churches within walking distance, 3 Asian grocery stores, community groups, even Chinese New Year is celebrated here on a massive scale. Thousands attend this local high school event. Several years later, her circle of Chinese friends here in America outnumber my own. Back home, well, diversity isn't just tolerance, it's our infrastructure. We don't just let different cultures exist, we give them the space to thrive. During the day, it was so hot, Wuhan's heat drove everyone into the air-conditioned spaces. But when the sun goes down, that's when the city really comes alive. Wuhan's Green Road, it's a 20-mile pedestrian pathway along South Lake, transforms at night. Cyclists in lycra sped by, trees sparkle with color-changing lights, and in the distance the city skyline glows with multicolored bulbs reflecting in the lake and the Yangtze River. It's really very beautiful.
Looks like they got close. We'll stop here.
But the real life happens at street level. Street vendors do their best business at night. Spontaneous groups form to play music and to dance. Kids chase each other across the grass. Hundreds of people coming out together, exercising, socializing, just to be present. Back home in Colorado, summer nights are quiet. People are in their homes, maybe in their yards with their friends. The streets are empty, not abandoned, just private. American individualism means we gather in smaller circles, behind doors in controlled spaces. But here, in China, community happens in public, loud, spontaneous, with strangers. The dark kind of disguised my appearance. I wasn't quite as foreign. I was just another shadow engaged in the party. It felt like I kind of belonged. And the cameras, they were still there, watching the dancing, the kids playing. But I'd stopped kind of noticing them. They faded into the background. Public transportation was so easy and cost only pennies. I could go anywhere. Parks, malls, restaurants, clear across the city with only a single subway token. The practical freedom of movement meant more than the surveillance of being watched, and each trip on the subway meant my carbon footprint, well, it sank to just about nothing. I started noticing China's broader environmental efforts. Our apartment, for example, and my sister's condo were in newer planned communities that emphasize integrating urban living with nature. Parks, tree-lined roads, trails, and bike lanes everywhere, wide sidewalks with braille paths for accessibility. Even the parking was different. Instead of fields of asphalt, they used permeable bricks with grass growing through the holes. Most cars parked in these were electric. Outside every subway station, hundreds of electric scooters and moms taking kids to school, delivery drivers, commuters. But even with all of these efforts, the sky was still hazy. My eyes burned, my nose ran, and buildings rose from the ground while others were crumbling inside. Tap water still wasn't safe. Two Chinas seemed to exist at once. I watched an old woman with a bamboo broom sweeping a 6-lane highway. Driverless electric cars share the roads with human-pulled rickshaws and 3-wheeled cargo bikes that look decades old. Tree-lined walking trails ended at intersections where people chain-smoked after dinner. Farming villages were bulldozed for high-rise office buildings. But the old habits persisted in the new spaces. China was just building something sustainable while racing against its own past, and I couldn't tell which would win. Well, the whirlwind of China was nearing its end. Each night I slept really deeply, exhausted from eating, walking, exploring, and my mind was always racing, trying to make sense of this place. Finally, we rolled our bags to the subway station for the last time, and I was really excited to get home, to rest, and to finally eat a hamburger. With my hands. The high-speed train back to Hong Kong was a mirror image of our arrival, the same checkpoints, the same process, reminding me of the finale and the most frightening immigration checkpoint, the one that was in San Francisco. The American news cycle had me so paranoid. I imagined worst-case scenarios. What would I do when Yolan was detained by scary ICE agents in masks? I mentally prepared myself, and after a long 15-hour flight, and some guy hacking up a lung behind me and foreshadowing yet another round of antibiotics, we landed finally at San Francisco. And we followed this river of people. Signs that split the crowd, U.S. passport this way, foreigners the other. Immigration officer sat behind an inch-thick plexiglass, and in my mind, fueled by all of the news, well, this guy was hardened. Angry, waiting for someone just like me to take it all out on. This was Trump's America, after all, a place that no longer welcomed immigrants, right? Was he going to be the one who would send my wife back to China? Well, he waved us over, and I felt sweat roll down my back. "Where are you coming from?" he asked me, and his eyes on my passport. I said, "Hong Kong?" And he turned to Yolan. "And you?" She just said, "China." He looked at her and then at her passport. "Right thumb," he instructed, pointing to the scanner. She registered her prints. No facial scans. He handed our passports back to us. "Welcome home," he said, and gave us a wink and a smile. And just like that, we were back. My stepson picked us up at DIA, and he was excited to see his mom, but kept it on the down low. Yolan and I were pretty friggin' exhausted. And as we merged onto the highway, well, the world opened up. Denver's Front Range and big skies, these wide open spaces almost seemed foreign now. But wow, blue sky. I could see the contrails from the planes overhead. When Yolan first arrived in America, she pointed at one and asked me, "What's that?" You don't see them in China. The sky is never that clear. No more towering buildings blocking the horizon, no electric scooters fighting for position, just these wide open roads with room to breathe, space between things. But it wasn't just the openness. People smiled at us as we were walking into the airport. They made eye contact, held doors open, and drivers waved us through intersections instead of fighting for every inch. The internet worked instantly. That was nice. No VPN, no block sites, no wondering if someone was watching me. And when we got to the restaurant, I had noticed the mix of people. White, black, Asian, Latino, all at different tables, speaking different languages even. And I spoke English to the hostess and she understood me immediately. Something so obvious it felt absurd to even notice, but after 3 weeks of depending on Yolan to translate everything, it felt like a weight lifting. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Relief, guilt, and gratitude, confusion, all at once. But I was home. And part of me was still in those Wuhan streets trying to reconcile what I'd seen with what I'd been told to expect. That night, I finally got my hamburger. We sat at Bad Daddy's Burgers, and my kids, Yolan's son, all of us together. The waitress approached her table, looked at Yolan, and with a warm smile said, "Ladies first." Like and subscribe, and leave a comment.
搞什么啊？我每次刷了都有红包什么的。哎，你刷那个说那个黄色码。红色的是领珍宝的。那个只有1分钱嘛。不是说每次搞什么事33.5。哎。
Oh, you're still here. Well, why don't you hit that like button and subscribe while you're at it? It goes a long way, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.